Imagine getting formally convicted of corruption. And, not because you embezzled millions of dollars from some corporate slush fund or took a bribe from a foreign lobbyist.
Right, it's something massive.
Yeah, exactly. But instead, you get convicted because you hid a single sewing needle in your bedroom.
Wow.
Just one needle, kept entirely for your own private use. And that brings the entire weight of your community's moral judgment crashing down on your head.
I mean, that sounds like the premise of a dystopian novel, honestly. A society where the concept of personal property is just, it's so thoroughly eradicated that holding on to a piece of thread makes you, what, an enemy of civilization?
An enemy of civilization, which is exactly the radical blueprint we are exploring today on this deep dive.
Oh, this is going to be intense.
Yeah, it really is. We are looking at a text by a writer named Su Feng, and it's titled, Brace Yourself for This. Eliminate greed, corruption, laziness, extravagance, and selfishness. The Culture Building of the Second Home, Now New Oasis for Life, Part 6.
That is quite the title.
Right. And it basically outlines this proposed utopian community where human vice isn't just, managed by laws, but it's surgically removed from the human psyche.
To pilot this new era.
Exactly. An era called Lifechanyuan.
Okay, and just to jump in here for a second, as we unpack this, we really have to look at the text objectively, right?
Yeah.
Like as a philosophical and structural blueprint.
Oh, totally. We need to be very clear about that.
Yeah, so to everyone listening, our goal today we're not taking sides or endorsing this extreme elimination of private property or debating the politics of communal living for that matter.
Right, we're strictly acting as guides here.
Exactly. We are just putting this source material under a microscope to understand the fascinating and honestly often intense mechanics of how such a society claims it could actually function.
And the premise alone is just staggering. Because usually, if you want to build a better society, you start with macro infrastructure.
Like better tax codes or a new constitution.
Yeah, fairer zoning laws, things like that. You build a container and just sort of assume humans will adapt to fit inside it.
But this text completely flips that logic.
It really does. It argues that you literally cannot build a new world with the same old flawed humans. You have to rewrite the human operating system first.
Yeah, the author basically believes that trying to build a harmonious civilization with our current behaviors is, it's like building a mansion on fluctuating quicksand.
Quicksand. That's a great image. So what's the quicksand made of?
Well, the text identifies 6 specific behaviors that make up this quicksand. Corruption, embezzlement, laziness, extravagance, selfishness, and waste.
And I'm assuming the text doesn't just view these as like minor personality flaws you work on in therapy?
Oh, far from it. I mean, the language used is genuinely apocalyptic.
Totally. How bad are we talking?
These 6 traits are described as the, quote, archenemy of civilization, a cancer on the body, and literally the character and behavior of demons.
Wow. Demons.
Yeah. The author argues that unless you completely eradicate the soil where these evils breed, society will just inevitably collapse into conflict.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the threshold for these demonic traits is it's mind-boggling.
It really is.
Like I mentioned the sewing needle earlier, that's an actual example from the text.
Yep, directly from the source.
In this second home, every single thing belongs to all the community members who they call Chanyuan celestials.
Right.
And if you keep one cent, one needle, or one single thread for yourself, you are instantly guilty of corruption.
And the rules around extravagance are just as severe.
Seriously.
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
If your food, clothing, shelter, or transportation exceeds the average standard of an ordinary Chanyuan celestial, even slightly, you are suspected of depravity.
Suspected of depravity for having nicer shoes. That is where the reality of this really starts to set in for me.
Yeah, you stand out, you're a problem.
Right. You can't keep an extra blanket on your bed just because you run cold if the average person only has one blanket. It's like the strictest homeowners association imaginable.
The ultimate HOA.
But instead of fining you because your mailbox is the wrong shade of beige, they are monitoring the exact material output of your very soul.
And the monitoring of your output is arguably the strictest component, especially when it comes to laziness.
Oh, right. What's the rule for that?
Laziness is explicitly defined as failing to work 6 hours efficiently for the home every single day.
The word efficiently really carries a lot of weight there, doesn't it?
Oh, a massive amount of weight.
It's not just about punching a clock, but reading through the source, there's this massive ambiguity, like who decides what efficient means?
That is the big question.
If I'm sweeping the communal courtyard for my 6 hours, but I'm, daydreaming and sweeping a bit slowly, am I suddenly committing an archenemy level evil?
That ambiguity is definitely a potential flaw in the blueprint, because the text frames waste not just as, say, throwing perfectly good food in the garbage.
Okay, so what else is it?
It's any action that hinders the full utilization of resources and man's talents.
Wow. So I have to be at peak performance.
Exactly. Efficiency isn't just about effort. It's about optimal output. You must be operating at your absolute peak potential for those 6 hours, or you are technically wasting the community's resources.
Which brings us to a huge psychological roadblock.
The incentive structure.
Right. If I'm required to work at peak, hyper-optimized efficiency every single day, what is my motivation?
Yeah, why do it?
In our current society, if you work incredibly hard, you get a tangible reward. A promotion, a corner office, higher salary, maybe you can afford a nicer car.
Sure, standard capitalism.
But in the second home, I can't have a nicer car. I can't even have a nicer thread. So where does the dopamine hit come from? What's driving me?
The text actually anticipates that exact friction.
It does.
Yeah. The psychological reframing relies on members constantly studying what the author calls the 800 values for new era human being.
800 values. That sounds like downloading a completely new software patch for the brain.
Functionally, it basically is. Now, the source doesn't list all 800 values in this specific excerpt, but it describes their purpose.
Which is to overwrite standard human behavior, I'm guessing?
Precisely. To completely overwrite human cultural norms. The text explicitly warns that no matter how much sweat, effort, or contribution you make, you will never gain earthly privileges.
Never.
Never. You cannot form a, quote, special interest group or elevate your status above your neighbor.
So the state absorbs all of my surplus labor, and I get absolutely nothing extra in return here on Earth.
You get nothing physical in return. The entire reward system is relocated from the material world to the spiritual realm.
Oh, I see.
The author states that your labor is exclusively to pay back debts accumulated over different lives and to build up wealth and treasure for our journey to the heavenly kingdom.
Okay, so it's a cosmic 401k.
That is a perfect way to put it.
I'm not putting money into a physical bank account. I'm depositing my 6 hours of intensely efficient sweeping into my eternal ledger.
Exactly. And to manage that ledger without relying on, an oppressive physical police force, the text introduces a really fascinating internal mechanism.
What's that?
Members are required to establish a moral court in his or her own conscience.
Internalizing the surveillance. Wow.
Exactly.
Because if you genuinely believe your soul is on trial every single minute of the day, you don't need a police officer standing on the corner. You just police your own thoughts.
The author actually describes it as lighting a magical lamp in the mind.
A magical lamp.
Yeah. The goal is to cultivate deep spiritual conditioning. Sincerity, kindness, virtue, faith, all so that you self-regulate.
So the temptation doesn't even materialize.
Right. You stop yourself from taking the extra blanket before the thought even fully forms in your head.
I mean, I see the theory there, but let's be realistic for a second. Human biology is incredibly stubborn.
Oh, absolutely.
An internal moral court sounds beautiful. But if there's a fresh chocolate cake sitting in the communal kitchen, my internal magical lamp is going to have a really hard time stopping my hand from taking a slightly larger slice.
Willpower definitely fatigues.
Exactly. Willpower fatigues. So how does the text deal with the sheer friction of environmental temptation?
Well, the text actually argues that relying purely on willpower is insufficient.
Oh, okay. So what's the solution?
You have to remove the temptation entirely. You must uproot the soil of conflict.
Uproot the soil.
Yeah, and this is where the blueprint really shifts from spiritual philosophy into extreme structural mandates.
Yeah.
The primary mechanism is the absolute elimination of private ownership.
So what does this all mean in practice? The phrasing used in the text is just a profound paradox to me.
The nothing but owns everything part.
Yes. It says the goal is for everyone to have nothing but owns everything.
Right. You individually own absolutely nothing, but collectively, as a celestial, you own the entire second home.
Okay, but how do you convince people to go along with that?
To get people to agree to this total surrender of property, the community offers a massive, comprehensive guarantee. It promises to solve all basic human needs.
And it's not just food, clothing, and shelter, right? The text drops some absolute bombshells here.
It really does.
It claims the community will solve aging, death, raising children, and even physiological needs.
Yeah, that's a long list.
Wait, rewind for a second. Solves aging and death. How does giving up my personal belongings logically lead to immortality?
Right, that definitely requires looking at the text's metaphysical logic. It doesn't mean solving biological cell decay in a laboratory.
Oh, so it's not literal immortality.
No.
Yeah.
Because the entire framework is built on reincarnation and spiritual debts, solving death means removing the earthly fear and material burden associated with it.
Okay, I think I follow.
If you have no property to pass down, no inheritance for your kids to fight over, and you truly believe your labor has secured your place in the heavenly kingdom, the terror of death is theoretically neutralized.
Ah, I see. You don't defeat death biologically. You defeat the concept of death as a tragedy.
Exactly.
That makes sense within their framework. But what about that other guarantee? Solving physiological needs and removing the soil for contention.
This part is wild.
Yeah, the text lists things humans usually fight over: money, power, fame. But then it adds beauty.
Yep.
It explicitly states there will be no beauty to be privately possessed.
What's fascinating here is that this is perhaps the most radical deconstruction in the entire blueprint.
I was blown away by this.
The philosophy is attempting to dismantle the very concept of exclusive human relationships.
It completely reframes romance. I mean, if beauty cannot be privately possessed, what happens to the concept of a spouse or a partner?
Well, in many traditional cultures, marriage and romance carry an inherent element of possession, right? We say, my husband, my wife.
Yeah, totally.
This text views that possessiveness as the ultimate form of selfishness.
Really? Just being married is selfish.
Under this logic, yes. A monogamous couple is essentially a special interest group of two people. They prioritize each other over the broader community.
Wow. So they are attempting to eradicate jealousy by mandating communal detachment.
That's the goal.
If you view another human being as, like, a beautiful community garden, anyone can appreciate it, but nobody is allowed to build a fence around it.
By saying beauty cannot be privately possessed, the text aims to collectivize the most intimate, visceral aspects of human connection.
That is just wild.
If nobody belongs to anybody, the soil for jealousy, infidelity, and romantic conflict is theoretically paved over completely.
It is a staggering psychological experiment. But let's ground this in day-to-day reality again.
Sure.
Even with no private property, even with communal relationships, even with an internal moral court running 24/7, humans are still humans.
We certainly are.
We have bad days, we get tired, someone is inevitably going to hoard a needle or slack off on minute 45 of their efficient work cycle.
It's bound to happen.
So when the internal court fails, what actually happens in this community?
The text actually mandates a very specific and highly public mechanism for this. It's called the weekly special meeting of exchange.
Okay, what does that involve?
Every single week, the entire community gathers. And during this time, everyone is granted unrestricted freedom of speech to expose instances of the 6 evils in others.
Wait, a weekly public airing of grievances?
Pretty much.
If I know my neighbor can stand up in front of 50 people on Friday and announce that my courtyard sweeping was inefficient on Tuesday, I am going to be living in a state of constant low-level terror.
It sounds incredibly stressful.
That sounds like a recipe for a deeply toxic, paranoid surveillance state. It's neighbor turning against neighbor.
The author is actually aware of that risk.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, which is why the text introduces a philosophy of radical forgiveness to act as a safeguard.
Okay, how does that work?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the strict rule for these meetings is a, quote, strict attitude to affairs, but a gentle attitude to people.
Strict to affairs, gentle to people.
Exactly. The criticism must be aimed at the action itself, never the individual's inherent worth.
I mean, I hear the text saying that, but calling it gentle doesn't erase the cortisol spike of having your flaws publicly dissected.
Oh, definitely not.
You can mandate that people use nice words, but you can't legislate away human ego. A public critique still feels like an attack, no matter how gently it's phrased.
The psychological friction there is undeniable. But the text attempts to smooth that friction by demanding that the community not mete out casual punishment or take revenge.
Okay, so they aren't, like, locking people up.
No. It explicitly acknowledges human fallibility. It says, we should always remember that none of us is perfect and that everyone is likely to commit mistakes.
So it's not a tribunal looking to exile you for hiding a thread. It's framed more as a corrective alignment.
Yes. The stated goal is to catch erroneous ideas at the very outset, to find the trace of such trend and banish it before it grows into systemic corruption.
Nip it in the bud.
Exactly. And the emotional anchor of this entire accountability process is how you view the offender.
Right, the community mindset.
The text insists that everyone must be treated as a sister, brother, relative, and lover instead of our competitor or enemy.
There's that word again. Lover.
Yeah.
It loops right back to the collective ownership of relationships we talked about. If you genuinely view your neighbor with the same unconditional grace as you would a beloved relative or partner, it theoretically takes the sting out of the critique.
It softens the blow.
Yeah, you're being corrected by family, not by a hostile state.
But it requires a profound community-wide commitment to rehabilitation over punitive justice. You must give the offender enough time to repent and improve their character.
You literally have no choice but to forgive them.
You are required to forgive them.
When you step back and look at the whole puzzle Xu Feng is trying to assemble here, it's an incredibly delicate, almost fragile ecosystem.
Highly fragile.
They're trying to balance zero tolerance for vice with infinite tolerance for the individual. By eliminating corruption, laziness, and extravagance, the text claims it can build an energetic, harmonious environment where a unified will exists perfectly alongside pleasant individual feeling.
It is a profound exploration of what it actually takes to reach what the author calls the highest realm of life.
It really makes you think.
The text poses a challenging question. Can we achieve true harmony through unlimited individual liberty? Or does it require radical self-limitation and total reliance on the collective?
Which brings me back to you listening to this. We've just dissected a blueprint for a society that demands the absolute surrender of the self in exchange for total existential security.
A huge trade-off.
Massive. Imagine waking up tomorrow in the second home. Every single one of your basic needs is unconditionally guaranteed for the rest of your life.
No more bills.
Right. You will never panic about making rent. You will never stress about medical bills. You will never worry about affording groceries. And you will never fear dying alone. The community catches you. Always.
It sounds appealing when you frame it like that.
It does, but the absolute non-negotiable trade-off is that you can never claim ownership over a single physical object or even a single romantic relationship ever again.
Nothing is yours.
Not a car, not a house, not a partner, not even a needle and thread. So, if you lived in that reality, would you feel like you had lost your fundamental independence as a human being? Or would you feel like you were finally completely free?
It forces us to ask what truly weighs us down. Is it our lack of resources or our desperate need to possess them?
Keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.